Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Virginia's for Realtors. I'm pleased to be joined today by Tom McConnell and John Letterman, team leads with Patriot Real Estate Partners, both with Keller Williams Williamsburg in Williamsburg. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We're great.
Well, I'm excited to have you guys on. Typically I don't have two guests on at a time, but it sounds like we're really going to get into the whole team dynamic with you, which I think is important for a lot of listeners out there. So, of course, we always got to kick it off with the origin story. So let's kind of go around the horn here. Tom, what were you doing before you got into real estate, and what was kind of your background?
Right on, man. Hopefully it's a hero origin story and not a yeah. So I joined the military straight out of high school, joined the Air Force. I was just smart enough to know if I went to college with all my buddies, there'd be a lot of time wasted, money wasted. So luckily I made that choice. It paid off quite a bit, just kind of helping me mature. And ironically, the Air Force paid for my bachelor's degree, and I'm actually finishing my master's right now in leadership. So it worked out.
Very nice.
So joined the Air Force, I would say about 8 years in, a huge seed for me for leadership and self-improvement. I just came across a Les Brown YouTube video, man. And, that sparked something. From there, I just started reading every book I could on entrepreneurship, self-improvement. I mean, some of the classics like Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, some of those foundational books. So that's kind of what started it for me. And then I'm kind of a person of action. So I started businesses. I became a serial entrepreneur while I was active duty.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. First business was a nutrition company, probably sparked because I read 4 Hour Work Week, and I was like, I can do that. So started a nutrition company. The main products was a nootropic. It was like a vitamin pack for the brain. And then I've always been into lifting weights and stuff. So I basically took everything all my supplements, put them in one bottle, sold that. Really cool stuff. I learned a lot, made a little bit of money, but it was more learning. I knocked on doors, brick and mortars, online retail, SEO, learned a lot in that. And then from there, I started a few online retail stores like Tom's Tactical Gear, Mommy and Me type stuff, which was cool. Again, SEO, learned a lot. Started a photography business. And then I looked at affiliate marketing and like, okay, what's a big ticket item that I could get behind and try to do? Yeah. I got connected with an infrared sauna company. And after talking to the guy for quite some time, I had the idea to go after UFC, MMA, that type of crowd. So while active duty, I talked this dude into flying me around the US to UFC gyms, some of the biggest ones. And I did promotional deals with UFC fighters. So
holy cow. Okay.
Had dinner with like Misha Tate, trained with Randy Couture, Big Country. I've always been in like MMA, combat sports, boxing, that type of stuff. So amazing experience. But all that kind of stuff was cool, but I really wanted to make an impact on people. Like, how can I change lives type of thing? Mm-hmm. And that's when I guess the epiphany hit me. Like, what can I do to really help somebody? And in my experience, when I was younger, buying houses as a young airman, I just didn't have the best realtors, man. And I was like, dude, if they would have taught me certain things when I was younger, the change in trajectory on my life could have been huge. Yeah. So I was like, okay, let me become that person to educate these guys, talk to them to be just financially responsible, get a good game plan, and think long term, which also led me to get my financial licenses. So I was a financial advisor for a while, but more so just to supplement the value that I could add to these young guys. I mean, that's very cool. A lot of it.
I mean, that's pretty crazy though. The entrepreneurial spirit obviously comes through. And now, are you moving around to different duty stations as you're kind of doing these changes along the way?
So as you can see from the Freedom Beard, I am recently retired. I got the DD 214 club in October. So
Nice.
this year it was 10 years wearing the uniform type of thing. But finally, I can focus all my time and attention on growing this business the way we really want to.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, just along all the stories that come with that. So we'll have to dig in that a little bit. But you make such a good point though, because active duty, all of us were active duty here at one point. The ability to use your VA loan productively to purchase homes. There's so many that could take better advantage of it, I think. But it's not because they don't want to. It's because nobody's like, hey, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And having you guys in their corner, what an opportunity. So that's a great story. Well, John, how about you, sir? So any toppers for that UFC fighters? You're like,
I don't know if I have toppers. Our origin stories could be very similar. Went into the military right after high school. I did do some athletics, had a chance to do that, elected to go into high school, start a family kind of early. Or go into military, start a family early. Went in the Air Force, did 22 years there, bouncing around. And so when I was in the Air Force, I was focused all in kind of thing. And it wasn't until close to the end I started bouncing around and seeing, what do I want to do? And real estate had always kind of been on my mind. And so, like I said, tried a couple different things, including acting. I've got an IMDb out there. I've been on some productions you may have seen. And so
professional thespian.
A professional thespian is what Tom likes to say. So I have been paid for my acting, weirdly. So you always play a bad guy with a mug like this. But anyway, the way my real estate career actually got started, my wife and I had been talking about it for a long time. Felt like something I could be good at. We had some bad agents in the past. We didn't know the real estate game, bought and sold some houses, didn't know what we had at the time, right? Missed some opportunities. And I just felt like that wasn't acceptable to me, right? Spent some time as a first sergeant in the Air Force, and that is a job where you're taking care of people. That is your whole deal, is the care and feeding of your unit and making sure those guys are happy, healthy, and ready to accomplish the mission. And so I felt like I could bring that same energy to the real estate game. And so when I got to my final duty station, I kept hearing Tom's name over and over and over again when it comes to real estate. So honestly, man, I just walked in his office and I sat down and said, "Hey man, let's talk about real estate." I had my little notepad, had everything. Like let's have a chat. And so serendipity, right? Things happen for a reason. And it turned out that he had been in the real estate game for a bit, was starting to kind of hit his volume threshold, right? Hit that throughput with active duty and everything going on, and had been considered starting a team. And so when I walked in, it clicked, everything hit, and we jumped right into this thing, feet first. So
that's awesome. I mean, what a great, your guys' background, certainly diverse for sure. Just kind of these different experiences. So let me ask you this. What would be one thing that the layman out there listening to the podcast does not know anything about acting, how you got paid? How did you get your first gig? Like what's one thing that we don't know that you're like, yeah, this would surprise you?
Honestly, the irony is it's the same thing in this business. Jump in. When you see an opportunity, go do it. Right. Okay. So too many people are like, don't volunteer. Don't throw your hand up. Don't put yourself out there. The way I got into it, I answered an open casting call. That was it. And at first it wasn't even me. I saw it, ignored it. My wife encouraged me to do it. She was like, go ahead and do it. Who knows, right? And sure enough, not only did I get the call back, but I got a more featured role where I got to be a little bit more involved, and that opened doors for all the rest of them.
That's crazy. Now, did you act in high school? Were you in drama or any of that background, or
nothing? No? I'm just a really animated guy, and so it just clicked. And like I said, went to a couple auditions, did some costume tests and stuff like that, and got approved. Everyone likes me, and like I said, I got to stand beside some talented people. So.
That's crazy. Now, when you got this opportunity, were you like, "Are you guys sure you want me? Am I reading this correctly? They're citing me."
Oh no. So I will say I can be humble, but I also am. When they picked me, I was like, oh yeah, right choice.
Of course,
Like
yeah, that's right.
I'm the guy that's going to be like, yeah, I'm the right guy. Sorry.
So when does Denzel walk in? Do we read together? How does this go? So
Exactly. Yeah. So do you need me? Do I get a trailer? Like, how does this work? Yeah.
Awesome. Now, okay, so let's kind of we're going to lead into the real estate part now. So Tom, for you, you decide to get your real estate license, and now at this point, do you own multiple properties and are different spots? Are you buying and selling all the time, an investor type, or you just like, I'm going to get my license, and this seems like the game plan for me?
Yeah. So one of the catalysts, funny enough, was base housing.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever partook in some of that, but I'm not even going to name the base. I had a terrible experience, and so the altruistic stuff, but that coupled with the hate for that, just
it was a motivator.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
I just want to teach as many people as possible how to make good life choices. So they make good investment, change their just family in general. But also I was like, I don't want anybody to deal with this, like getting on base. And then as a E7, I was given my full BAH to this company where like an E3 is next door in the same house. And then on top of that, since I have a family, we're using more utilities, so I'm paying more money on that. And then as we leave, they just nickel and dime us on all kinds of expenses. It's like, you guys got enough money.
And for those maybe not familiar with the vernacular, BAH being housing allowance that we get in the military, right? So when you're base housing, you give that entire allowance over to this company that's running the housing department. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong, if we all three are different ranks, we could literally be right next to each other in pretty much the same house, and they're going off of the size of our families. And so, I'm putting in 1,200, you're giving 2,000, and John's giving 2,500, and it's like, well, our houses are the same. So yeah, to me that when they made that change, because I was in a long time ago, and it was more like, okay, here's E5, E4, E5 housing, and blah blah blah, and then changing it to where it's more of the BH coming out of your pocket for a similar house. I thought that was crazy. So for agents listening, something to keep in mind when you have folks that are considering base housing, like, all right, you're if you're an E6, E7, like get ready to live next to E2 and E3s.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Potentially.
Yeah. Potentially. And some places do try to still split it up, but again, very base dependent, very, budget dependent, those kind of things. So all those things are very fluid.
I think one last thing before we go out of this segment, was there any big, really, anything you brought from your past experiences that you found has been extremely helpful to you guys in real estate?
Oh yeah. Just my entrepreneurial journey put me ahead of the pack for sure. I still understood that I needed to join a team with a good team lead, because there are things I just didn't know. I had the ambition. I understood like SEO and consistency and just working your spear, stuff like that. But all that, everything I did in the past, it all helped me in the future, to the point, I mean, my first 4 months, I outpaced my military salary, like out of the gate, which isn't normal, and something I know we're going to talk about for new agents. But everything I did in the past absolutely compounded and helped me start off strong.
Well, I think too, it definitely taught you the will to ask, right? Because you don't get the opportunities you had if you're not like, hey, let me take advantage of this. Who do I need to talk to? And if you don't do those things, you're not in front of UFC fighters. That's just, just doesn't just happen. So that's awesome. John, how about you?
After you get punched in the face by a UFC fighter, you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah, for sure. No, for me, I think it's probably that follow through, that ability to kind of care about people, to care about the outcome, and really, honestly, in the military, if you don't have a little bit of discipline, a little bit of follow up, some self starting, you're just not going to get very far, and so you definitely aren't going to get through 22 years. So that is probably the thing that made me, successful in this gig. That translated the quickest was, man, hey, follow up, make the call, get a little uncomfortable sometimes. It's fine if that's the worst thing that happens during your day. You're gonna have a good day. So we absolutely, we bring that same energy that I brought as a senior non-commissioned officer to this game. And it is sometimes making calls. It's sometimes having uncomfortable conversations. But mainly it is that consistency, being there, follow up, and being available for folks.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was going to say, for John, being a first shirt, and he did it for what, 5 years?
6 years. Yeah.
6 years? That is a training ground for a realtor. Anybody that's out there that's a first shirt, I mean, if you have a good heart, of course, but you're a firefighter, you're a therapist, you're a life coach. And, that's exactly what we do in real estate. So
yeah.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right, guys, when we come back, we're going to talk about first year in business for you. And we're looking at it from the angle of you're giving your TED talk to 100 agents and you guys are growing your team. And so you probably have very similar versions of this, but we'll be right back with Tom and John. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, all right, guys, we're going to talk about kind of the first year in business for people. And Tom, you already mentioned that you fell under a mentor, on a team lead, which is important, I think, for a lot of folks, because you can have all the vigor in the world, but if you don't know the direction you're going, it doesn't help. It becomes harder and it's tougher to make it through. But I'd like to start with kind of your personal journey. Tom, we'll go with you, and then John, kind of like, give me your first 90 days in business and what you were doing to be successful.
Yeah. So like I said, I joined a team just because I understood what a responsibility we have with helping somebody with one of the biggest life events they have in their life. So I took that seriously, and I knew I was ambitious. I knew I could work hard, but I also knew there's a lot of variables in real estate that matter, contracts and making sure terms are right and you're protecting people and you're explaining things. So I found a team lead that was prior military, so it was a good fit. And basically he just opened up the fire hose and he let me drink. So with that, I had training sessions with him, picking his brain, dove deep into podcasts, Tom Ferry, those type of coaching podcasts that were beneficial for sure. But then I just put boots to the ground, started door knocking, taking advantage of any open house I could, creating conversations and working my sphere of influence. So everybody that knew me, I would just start conversations. And it wouldn't be a conversation that I was soliciting. I would just stay in touch with people, see how they were doing, be interested in them, which in turn, eventually they would ask me what I was doing. I use social media like Facebook as a branding, like just to consistently post, hey, I know I'm new as a realtor. People don't know me as a realtor, but trying to build that repetition so I become top of mind for real estate. Right. And some people, once you get into the game, they're going to be like, are they going to be good with it? They're brand new. So you're building that confidence in your sphere as well.
I think that's all great points. John, kind of anything to add to what you were doing, maybe a little bit different?
Honestly, it's very, very similar, obviously, because I jumped in with Tom, and you talk about, we're battle buddies, right? But I could not have had a better mentor, because all of that tenacity, all of that go getting, I'm gonna go. I'm hungry. I want to be after it. He gave me that same drive, that same push, and said, "Hey, man, here you go." He helped short circuit some of the growing pains by saying, "Hey, man, I made this mistake. Don't make it." Right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Don't be dumb, right? And so the best thing I could tell any blossoming agent, considering to jump into it, find someone you trust, and man, stay under their wing, follow them around like a duck, and just suck up everything they do, absorb it, listen more than you speak, and you'll start to pick it up very fast.
Well, you made a good point there, though, and a lot of times we think back on the successes that we had kind of early on, but where there are some swings and misses, maybe Tom, that you're like, yeah, like John, you said, like, hey, don't spend your time, effort, and energy on that. It's not necessarily something that'll come to fruition for you. And I ran it hard, for a long time.
Yeah. Are you asking for an example?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah. Just like, again, going back to like, hey, we got 100 agents right now that are
Yeah.
listening, like, and they're thinking, I'm going to do this idea. And you're like,
Okay.
yeah, it's very similar to what I tried. So might want to reconsider.
Yeah. So I think one of the number one factors for success, right, is you got to become a person of value. Somebody could hand you a script a company spent $10 million to put together, but if you're not the individual that can put that script into play, it's going to be worthless to you. So and we tell our agents, we have, I want to say 14 agents now, you got to continually be learning. You got to be educating yourself. You got to learn human dynamics, how to communicate, communication dynamics. There's different people, analytical, emotional. You got to understand all this and the real estate game, like what's going on in the industry, interest rates, houses. We go as far as we buy home inspectors books, the things that they study to take their test, because we want them to have a superficial level. So when they walk into a house, they can identify potential pitfalls in a house versus getting them into contract, going through the inspection, finding them for the first time in that emotional roller coaster, plus the time and money spent and the time lost on the market. So to me, it's just about becoming more valuable for the customer. And then eventually the money follows suit. I mean, more value you add to the population, you will be compensated for it.
I think that's a good point because, you guys get hit up all the time with, spend $20,000 on this never fails program that you'll get, 50 million a year. And you're like, well, if it never fails, how come you aren't doing it? That's, it seems like that would make more sense than selling this to me. But really the education piece and staying top of mind. So let's talk about that piece for a minute. So, you're doing your socials. Did you have, did you guys have like, all right, we're posting Mondays, we're doing this Wednesdays. Did you have a schedule that you stuck to, or?
So, with me being active duty for 10 months out of the last 12, and then on top of that, we developed or started a property management company, and the team's been growing at a insane rate. So I'll tell you, we've been running around with heads or chickens with no heads, basically.
Right.
But this year, since I can focus on the business, I understand all the business principles, and that's what this year is about: getting more consistent CRM, advertising, marketing. So far, it's all been word of mouth. We just pour our hearts into serving the client, and everything's been word of mouth, which has been phenomenal. But I also understand there's opportunities we're missing out on, and that's what we're going to dial in this year.
Nice. Well, John, let's talk a little bit about maybe some outside the box ideas for some agents, because it's a lot of what we do now is similar, but do you guys have anything? I really like the home inspection idea to get that, you have a rough idea of what you're looking at, but was there anything that you kind of started when you were doing it? Like, hey, I'm going to try these different ideas and see where it goes.
Well, honestly, I hear that a lot. Like I'm gonna do X, Y, Z. I'm gonna do this, but I get a lot of young agents. They come to us. They want to learn. They're trying to drink from the fountain. Awesome. They have a ton of great ideas, but when you ask them, like, are you doing the basics yet? Like, are you leveraging your socials? Are you leveraging your sphere to the max? Are you doing all these things? Most of them are saying no. And to your point earlier, Tanner, when you said, hey, it's this $20,000 program. It's guaranteed to get you, X number of dollars or X number of leads or whatever. We often get approached by not only those programs, but agents on our team, like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And I always ask them, have you leveraged all the free stuff, all the things that are available to you that just take a little bit of effort, a little bit of uncomfortableness? Most are saying no. And same thing in all those real estate groups and all those things you see on social media, right? I won't throw any names in there, but it's amazing how many salespeople don't know that they're being sold to. And so, and so, they're always asking, like, how do I get more leads? How do I do this? And when you start asking them, like, hey man, what's your sphere of influence look like? What are you doing? Most of them, they throw their hands up, or they've got question marks, or they're like, well, I do this, I do that, but they're not leveraging it to their fullest. So for me, the outside of the box thinking is a little less than that. To me, the road to success has been paved. You know, when I drive to the grocery store, I don't put it in 4-wheel drive and drive a straight line. I take the road. And so there's a reason why we do that. Sure, I could drive the straight line and think outside the box, but in this case, you know, the paved road is easier. So I always tell the agents, man, start on the road. There'll be times and opportunities for you to jump out, and whether it's grab market share, you know, grab those extra clients, whatever, thinking outside the box. But most of the time, let's get the fundamentals. Let's get the basics right. There's a reason why, you know, you go back to that military background. There's a reason why you start learning to make your bed, you know, something you should already know as an adult. But you learn to do it perfect, and you do it over and over again, and someone comes through and flips it over and tells you to do it again.
Right.
You get the basics down first, and then the big stuff will come. So yeah, honestly, my outside the box for early career is learn the basics. You know, too many people are giving that up and trying to jump ahead to the big stuff and feel like they got to throw money at it. And then I don't know why I wasn't successful. It cost me, you know, $15,000 this year. Well, you weren't successful because it cost you $15,000 this year. I said Facebook was free, TikTok, you know, all those social medias, they're all free. You know, listen to a podcast, watch a YouTube video, whatever it takes, learn, implement. And that is something that we are very deliberate, particularly with our agents. We meet once a week, we go through their numbers, but we also say, what did you do for your business this week? Right. And so when they put that together, they give us an answer. If that answer is, I read a book, I watched a podcast, I did a thing, what are you going to implement this week from that you read? Right. And we hold them to it.
I think that's awesome. And such a great point. Master the basics, you know, and the master the boring basics until it's something that's just part of you to get business and make things happen. I love the accountability piece though, that you guys are implementing for agents. So, you know, it seems like that's one area. Keller Williams does a great job of that part, not better than, you know, your smaller mom and pop, in my opinion, on average. Not I'm sure there's some amazing smaller mom and pops out there doing that, but the once a week meeting, like, give me an idea. Let's say I'm your new agent and this month 2, and I'm like, oh, I haven't closed anything yet, but I'm working hard and you're seeing progress. What are some of the questions that you're asking me? Like you mentioned the first one.
Well, one of the first things we ask, because I try to keep these meetings between 15 and 20 minutes, right? We want them to be succinct. We don't want a bunch of fat, right? Nobody's got time for that. So one of the first things I ask, what's your numbers? How many conversations have you had? How many appointments did you set? Who did you sign, right? And if those numbers are low, we're going to set some goals for this next week, right? Even if it's just, hey, on the team's dime, I want you to take 10 people to coffee this week. 10 people. It seems like a lot. That's, you know, that's about 1 and some change a day, right? So find somebody from your sphere. You don't even have to make it a real estate pitch. It can just be a catch-up session. Learn, like Tom said, start talking about people, and through that natural progression, they're going to ask you about your life. Get them there, sit them down, get 30 minutes with them, give them a free cup of coffee on the team's dime, and set that, you know, conversation and get that appointment, right? And you'd be surprised when agents really start leveraging that, how quickly their pipeline starts to fill up. They get all excited. Oh, now I've got closings. Now we're talking, you know, and that's another thing we talk every week. We talk, what's your close volume year to date? What's your transaction number year to date? Because you need to know your numbers. You can't improve if you don't know your metrics, right? And so we will talk that all the time. I also make sure that our agents, our young agents, brand new ones, they're reading the books. You know, we'll give them a reading assignment. It sounds silly. And then I'll ask them what they read. Hey, what'd you get from it? We're adults. I'm going to assume you read it. I'm going to say, hey, I encourage you to. I can't, you know, I'm not going to strong arm anybody. There's no yelling, right? But if you really want to succeed and really want us to pour into you, show us that effort, and we're happy to help you along.
That's awesome.
I was going to add to that. We have quite a unique team structure because so part of this team, it was built out of necessity because through blessings, I mean, we started getting a lot of business and needed to do that. But it's always been the ultimate goal because we love leadership, pouring into other people and helping them become the best they can. But one of the pain points I wanted to solve in this team, I know how hard it was for me to be active duty and doing like 40, 50 transactions a year. I almost died, but and so during that process, I kind of paid attention, like what could be put in place that would make my life easier, and how can I set up other maybe full-time active duty, dual career, military spouses. So we have a spectrum of agents depending on their situation. And with that, we take into account, let's talk about your goals, your life by design, because that's going to dictate how we do these meetings a week. If your goal is once a month, which could be a phenomenal goal for an active duty member, one transaction a month is a lot of extra income for their family type of thing, but that's going to dictate the level of what they need to do each month. So each individual, we kind of customize like them and their goals, but then we hold them accountable to what they're doing by reverse engineering it and making sure they're putting in the reps.
Gotcha.
We start every year. We start every year with a long, about an hour long, like what's our goals, our career visioning for this year? What's our short term, our midterm 5-ish years, and our long term 10-year goals. And what are we doing every day to work towards those? And you'd be surprised when you start breaking it down for our agents on, hey, you want to do X number of transactions. The data shows us you need to do X number of phone calls, X number of door knocks, X number of this and that, right? You break that down by week and even today, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh man, I'm already behind. Yeah, we're talking, we're having a meeting on Wednesday. You needed to have 3 appointments this week already to meet your stated goal.
Yeah.
And you're at 1, that's fine. But just understand, I'm not going to be disappointed. It is your stated goal. If you want it, let's go get it.
That's awesome, man. I mean, when you really are breaking down the numbers for people, because yeah, it's great to say like, all right, I want to close 20 transactions. Okay, well, what does that 20 transactions look like? How many talk-tos you're going to have? What's your conversion ratio? And as you go further along in the business, then your conversion ratio is hopefully going to keep going up and up. But in the beginning, it's not going to be super super great. And so really having that accountability piece, that's great that you guys have kind of put this together. And that's for a lot of agents out there listening. I think they're getting something out of it. So, all right, when we come back, I want to talk about, we'll kind of talk about where you guys are at in business now, what you're doing to generate business, what you're encouraging your agents to do to generate business. So we'll be right back with Tom and John. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, all right, gentlemen, forming the super team, the Justice League of the Williamsburg real estate market, expanding nationwide. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, though, where your business is now, and for growing, as for like, how are you getting new clients? What's kind of maybe different than you did a couple years ago? Talk to me a little bit about the process of acquiring either somebody looking to list their home and purchase a new home.
Yep. So there's a great book out there, Work by Referral, and that's 100% been our MO from the beginning. So client events, definitely something that help nurture that. But basically what we try to do is just pour our heart and soul into helping them be successful. And man, we create champions for our brand. For military members out there, spouses Facebook groups have been a huge asset for us in funnel. But we just try to rock it out for our clients, and in turn they give us those warm leads, and anybody that knows a referral from a friend is substantially higher quality because, one, they trust you. You're not constantly fighting to show them, hey man, I really care about you, I want you to be successful. So when you have to have those difficult conversations like, hey, I know this is the first house we saw, I'm telling you right now, I'd look at hundreds of houses a year, and this is a really good deal. When somebody trusts you, they trust your advice versus somebody's like, is this guy trying to push me into a house type of thing.
Right.
We have an operations manager that helps us with consistencies on like emails, like home anniversaries. And another thing that we are very focused on is getting reviews from our clients. I think we have nearly 150 5-star reviews, and there's an art to getting those reviews, right? You want to make the ask during like the peak happiness, like, hey, we're signing for the house. You guys are amazing. that's when you make those type of asks, because you're gonna get a very animated and great review that is now people are finding us just through Google.
That's awesome. So that leads to a really good question then. So that's kind of the time frame on when you think the ask should come for the review. Like, hey, we've just had this great process. Now, are we at closing? Are we doing the walkthrough? What's the time frame?
I mean, it can vary, but definitely I do it towards the end because I want to make sure I fulfilled all my promises to the end type of thing. But it's normally when you're having a great conversation, they're very thankful, you're helping them out, doing the final steps. And then I'll use those opportunities like, hey, would you mind leaving us a review? It helps more, type of thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, for new agents, that's, you need either a Google business page, a Facebook business page, some place where people can quantify their experience with you that you can point to. That is something that, Tom instilled very early. He had some great reviews right out of the gate. We have a team review site that we ask that our agents kind of pour into and that our clients pour into. But he's right. Sometimes that right after the closing, sometimes a couple of days later, whatever, but you want to make sure that, one, it's keeping you accountable to your clients, keeping them totally happy, but two, have a place that they can share that, because whether it's a direct, referral or someone they Google you, they look you up, or they get something, they go to their favorite Facebook page or a Facebook page, the place they're moving to, and they say, hey, who's a good agent? And they throw your name gets thrown out there. Great. That's the first step. But when they click that name or they throw that name into Google, you want them to find good stuff, right? Because that's the next step. Everyone is they got to do a little research on their own. I got to make sure, right?
Right.
But if they, but when they see all 5-star glowing reviews, people like, man, these guys go above and beyond, and it is about the person, not the transaction for them. That's where you'll get folks reaching out to you. It helps short circuit some of that pipeline building.
Yeah. What are you guys' thoughts on, I'm interested in your thoughts on closing gifts, whether it's like the day of, or you do something down the road. What are your thoughts?
So we always aim, when you help somebody with a transaction like this, you get in their inner circle of trust. You learn so much about them. So I always tell my agents, and I make a point to do this myself, get to know these people. If you find something special in their lives, make note of it, and then we'll do a special closing gift. I honestly like to wait a week or so after closing, which might be weird, but it just allows everything to settle down. And then you get to touch base with them again, just to make that connection and check on the house, make sure everything's going well after they've been in it for a little bit. So I found that most beneficial in my experience. And I like doing that quite a bit.
I love that though, because, I often feel, that the day of closing, it's really a blur, and you already got like the moving trucks there, or you're figuring out the packing, and it's like, here's one more thing for you to add to the collection of stuff you're about to, and coming back a week later gives you a great touch point. Like, hey, is everything good with the house? So I really like the week later, let's check in, things have calmed down a little bit. Hopefully the internet's on, all that good stuff. So you can be a troubleshooter at that point too, if they're having any issues.
Yep.
Nice.
And you can take a moment to really that can be really impactful. Like he said, get to know the family. When I've had clients that were like, oh man, we want a yard, we want to play soccer with our kids in the backyard. So a soccer ball is definitely going to be a part of that closing gift, right? We help a lot of military clients. A lot of military clients are moving from overseas, other states. They are buying sight unseen. They've done that. We've done it before, so we understand the process. Yeah. And so what we'll do is our promise to them is they find the perfect house, and it doesn't necessarily match up with their timeline, but they're ready to buy. If it's going to be some time, we'll look after that house. We don't just okay, here's a lockbox. Let me know when you move in. We'll go visit that house. We'll make sure the water's going. We'll make sure things are okay. Nobody's messing with it. That it's well protected. And then when they show up, we make sure that we have some stuff in that house, right? We'll put some food, some items, some things that after a long trip, maybe you got kids or pets or whatever, you're exhausted. You walk in your house, it's 9 p.m. You're like, well, we got to eat something. Oh, never mind. Our agents have something right here. There's some basic sundries and, paper towels, toilet paper, those kind of things you don't necessarily think of. It keeps them from having to jump right back in the car, out to a convenience store or, Walmart or something. And again, their closing gift can be part of that. And it just keeps you, like, oh man, these guys just take care of us. The check's already cashed, but here they are, putting time and effort into my family. So
yeah, I love that. What's your follow-up then? Okay, so you've just sold me the home. Tom, you swung by a week later. Hey, Tanner, it turns out you like sports cards or whatever. That a lot of listeners of the podcast know I've lost a lot of money in sports cards. So I'm a big fan. So what's kind of your touch points after that for the client relation?
Yeah. So we're looking at a new CRM to be more consistent on just email campaigns, but we do client events throughout the year, and a couple of nuggets, hopefully for all the listeners. One thing we do, and we found pretty fruitful, is we'll actually buy out multiple movie theaters at the end of each year. It's a lot cheaper than you would probably anticipate. And man, it makes a big impact on people, right? So a lot of agents put together parties and things like that, but you got to understand there's a lot of introverts in the world. So that kind of stuff might scare them. We found movie theaters, it's like inviting somebody to that. They know they're going to meet us there to get a ticket. We have about a minute interaction, which is amazing, but then they get to go watch a movie with their family. They're super grateful, but also to get that ticket, we use Eventbrite. They give us a name, an email, a contact number, and it creates a warm follow-up list that we can pass out to the agents, and we give them a script. It's basically something like, thanks for coming out. We appreciate you guys supporting us. We want to continue to serve our community. If you know anybody that wants to buy, sell, and invest type thing. So that's a big hit. And then this summer, I got this idea from a mastermind I'm here locally. We're going to actually get an ice cream truck and drive around to all of our recent closings and our clients and pass out ice cream to their families paid for by us.
Nice. Okay. I love that.
It also
idea.
means we get to ride around an ice cream truck.
That's right. Well,
it's a double benefit.
Like, yeah, we're out of those guys. Those already. Sorry, somebody already ate 3 of those. But
yeah.
Now at the movie theater, I've really always liked that idea because, like you said, there are a lot of people that don't necessarily feel comfortable in the party situation. Mm-hmm. And do you then give a little spiel before the movie starts, mm-hmm. thanking everybody, and how about afterward? Do you guys do anything like that? Because I've been to one. Afterwards, I think we just kind of left. But is that kind of how it goes for you too? Is that what are your thoughts?
We do. We have quite a bit of raffle prizes, and to gain entry to that, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can post on your social that you're at the event, or if you've been a past customer, you haven't gave a review. If you give a review. So we do that. We're always there at the beginning and at the end just to greet everybody and tell everybody bye. But man, it's the money invested is far outpaced by the return we've seen personally.
Mm-hmm.
Have you explored the idea, because you mentioned the Eventbrite, of let's say, I was your client and you're like, hey, Tanner, do me a favor. If you know anybody that you think is looking to buy or sell coming up, we'd love to have them come to our events and here's some movie tickets. Have you kind of run down that road for maybe your A's, past clients?
Yeah, we don't limit it at all. Who they can bring, whatever. We encourage them. Hey, bring friends, and we don't necessarily say, oh, if you know someone buying, selling, just organically bring it, right? Because whether they're buying or selling, they get a movie ticket, they get a business card, maybe they win the raffle. We're still in their head if they do want to buy and sell, but if they're talking to friends, it is very multiplicative, and so it is something that we have found, like I said, fantastic return on investment. It has grown every year. By the way, some of our lending partners have jumped in and even done some co-branding and help us expand it. And so we have doubled every year that we've done this. So we've done it like 3 years now. And so we went, it was like 1, 2, and then now 4 screens where, and then, from one movie to now multiple movies. If we have multiple movies that make sense. And so typically we target something that would appeal to kids and stuff. So, basically anyone can come watch. But this time we kind of split it up to a more maybe teenage and older oriented, and then, younger kid family type thing. So.
Is this, do you do it on a weekday, weekend? Like, what's the time frame on
Typically a
this?
Saturday, I think, is what we did the last one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a Saturday afternoon type thing.
Yeah. Don't want to go too late, right? And, let's be honest. We don't want to be standing around, 11, 12 p.m. too, as the late show gets out. So we typically target, 4 or 5 p.m. Obviously you're going to run 2.5 hours. We'll have some time both before and after that. So you expect about a 6-hour block out of your schedule. But the amount of contact that you get for that 6 hours is really unparalleled throughout our entire year. I don't know there's another thing that we do that connects with as many people.
Yeah. That's awesome. How about the raffles? Tell me about some of your raffle prizes that you guys have done. Like what has been your best hit and one that you've liked the most?
Man, we're Costco junkies. They just have, they to be honest, they have some phenomenal gift basket type things. I think it's mainly gift baskets this year.
Yeah, that's basically what we've done every time is different types of gift baskets. And so we've got some smaller ones. We've got, all the way up to some really large ones that has just all kinds of stuff in it. And honestly, it is simply a value add. It is something to get people excited and not just bolting out the door at the very end, let me see if I'm on the raffle. Like, let me walk out there. And so we typically let everyone get into the theater. Tom and I will do our spiel. So a lot of times we have to break it up because we have multiple screens where, we'll hit, all of them just to try to get it started. Oh, by the way, when you do this, at least the theaters that we've used, they don't run previews in front of those. And so there's no 30-minute preview session. It's like right into the movie, and let's get moving, which again, another value add for everyone.
Yeah.
And then we let them know, like, hey, hit us up for the raffle if you've entered, and then we'll run the raffle basically in those first couple of minutes while people are watching the movie, annotate the winners, and then of course we're out there before the movies end, so we can. I want to say the last time we got to watch about 30 minutes of one of the movies. We typically will go in, we'll hold aside a couple of seats for us and sit in a theater, but there's so much lead in and so much turnaround. And we like to let our agents get in and enjoy it some too. So Tom and I and Chilla will typically take the bulk of the administrative stuff at the front and back side of that. So
I love that idea though. And I mean, and tell me about kind of your quantitative, like, okay, we wrapped one up and then we got 2 deals from it. So let me start with how many people ballpark at the last shindig?
Man, it was just under 300, right?
Okay.
Right, 300.
Yeah. I mean,
300 and then
we've gotten 3 deals just on the day of and I just multiplied the investment for sure. And then that follow-up is a really easy, warm follow-up because you're just saying, hey man, thanks for coming, and then you're kind of giving a little pitch at the end, but it's people that want to talk to you, and it's always good conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, 2 tertiary things that you get. I had some clients that had kind of cooled off. They had looked, couldn't find anything in their price range, right? And all of a sudden that same day they're walking up to me like, hey, check this house out, right? Could we see it? Absolutely, you can see it,
Nice.
And then same thing, you'll get folks in the theater be like, hey, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Right. And then we get to give them the spiel. Hey, we're a real estate team. We appreciate our clients. We just want to give them a free movie. Hey, we're always here. Here's a card. And I will even go through, a lot of times these theaters, they have like, police, first responders, whatever, kind of hanging out, as part of security, just watching over everything. I'll go talk to them too. Hey guys, we're military adjacent here, military and first responders. If you guys want to participate or whatever, like, by all means, give us a call. And we've even, I think this last time we reached out to local sheriff's office and some other first responders to include them in this process.
And I was going to mention that we give our past clients first dibs because we want to show them some love, but then we use the surplus of tickets to start sharing some hospitality with other markets that we want to get into, like first responders, because we would love to serve them and kind of add value and take care of those guys because we know how hard they work.
Yeah. Well, those are great tips. All right. When we come back, we're going to go over some good stories that you've had so far in the career. So we'll be right back with Tom and John. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, all right, guys, we're going to go into story time here. Rapid fire. Tom, best piece of advice you could have got it today, could have been in the past, real estate related or not real estate related?
Yeah. So my best piece of advice, and I tell this to all my agents, it's going to be worth it, but it's going to be hard. So I don't know. I mean, I'm a man of faith, so maybe it's a test from God or the universe. But I've noticed anytime I've done anything significant in life, there was always a test, a barrier to break over or break through, because basically on the other side of that, there's going to be something great, but you got to prove that you're the individual that can handle that. So when we go through our goals and things like that, just expectation management, it's going to take a while to build momentum. It's going to feel hard. Just remind yourself when it's hard, this is what hard feels like, and keep going, and you will win.
I love it. John, how about you, sir?
Honestly, mine's going to be a little different, little strange. Advocate for yourself, right? Protect your time. It's something that we struggled with in the military. It's something that I know agents struggle with. You look at the burnout rates, the data tells us people burn out of this business very fast. Advocate for yourself. Take a breather, take a rest. It's the hardest thing, there's 2 times where it's the hardest, and it is literally all the time, right? So when you're struggling and when you're successful, both of those times you're like, I can't take a break. I need to improve if I'm struggling, or I can't take a break. I got to keep this momentum going, And so sometimes the very best thing you can do is take a breather, advocate, recharge a little bit, set some boundaries, and then jump right back into it. You'll be a better agent. You'll be a better person for it, and you'll stick around in the business a lot longer.
Those are great advice. All right. Let's see. Personal motto, Tom.
Personal motto.
Mine's burn the ships. I love burn the ships.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
Personal motto: too stupid to quit. How about that?
Not bad. John, what do you got?
Honestly, got this from a football coach when I was a young kid. Right, get 2% better today. Right, It's 2% doesn't seem like a lot, but in 50 days, you are twice what you were, right? Get 2%, just improve a little bit every day. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be calling, it can be follow-up, it can be learning the contracts, it can be reading something, it can be a podcast. Get 2% better every day.
I love that. All right. Let's see here. Now, this question, let me read it for you guys. Looking for a bold move you made early on in your career, could have been yesterday, that resulted in a deal that you would not have gotten otherwise. So you did X and you got Y from it, and you were in your back of your mind, you're like, should I? And then you did it anyway, and it got you something. Tom, how about you?
Yeah. So quite a few years ago, I got a call from a referral agent out of state. And the question was, do you deal with $1 million listing or $1 million buyers? And my response was, absolutely, I do. And
sure.
I backed that up with some good communities around here, my knowledge, because I studied them, but I didn't tell them I never have before. And I had my first $1.5 million deal. It went extremely well, but it was because I wasn't afraid to say yes.
Yep. I love it. John, how about you?
Yeah, mine was a little more simple. I've had some folks reach out to me in the past, and when I was a real young agent, and they're like, hey, we've seen some homes. We've talked to a couple of agents, but we haven't been super happy. And so my initial response was like, man, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, because I was young. I didn't know any better.
Right.
And so, but what I did instead was, obviously you asked the question, are you signed? Are you working with anybody? Do you have anything official? And if the answer is no, like, okay, I tell you what, let's give this a shot. And so I was able to win their business and then win their friend's business, because when I was able to make something happen when others couldn't, they tell everybody, right? Yeah. And so to me, it was, again, I said it a couple of times, do those uncomfortable things that it's very hard when you first start. Oh, should I? I don't want to do
right.
Get out there and do it, man. Let's break some stuff, and nothing illegal, nothing immoral. That's what I always tell my team, but everything else we can live with. So go out there and do some uncomfortable stuff.
I love it. All right. Last question I got for you guys. So you're sitting on a beach in 30 years and somebody comes up to you and they're like, all right, what's your best real estate story to date? Could be funny, could be scary, could be weird. Just the best story that you can think of that you've had in real estate so far. Tom.
So you're not a realtor unless you have toilet paper sitting in your car, right?
Okay.
Every seasoned agent knows if a family is touring houses and they have young kids, those kids are going to ops check the bathrooms multiple times. So I had a family, and I think it was a little boy. Every time he had to go number two. Eventually, his mom thought he was just saying that, and he's like, "Mom, I really got to go to the bathroom." She's like, "No, you already went. Whatever." This kid in a diaper running around the house went to the bathroom and sprinkled throughout the house.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
Yeah. He marked it. They bought it, so it all turned out good. But, holy
Nice.
cow!
So you're like,
Yeah.
this is the one, right? This is the one we're stopping on right here. It must be fate.
Not a good day.
Oh man, that's like you said though, it's one of those learning things, and everybody's got the toilet paper in the car for situations just like that. So, John, how about you, sir?
Man, it's funny how these always involve bodily fluids, right? So, sitting at a closing table, wonderful young family buying a brand new build. It had been a little bit of a rocky transaction. We're finally there, and unfortunately, we were literally there late. The title company stayed open for us. Literally, the lawyer sitting in the office, older guy wearing his nice suit, and so I got a young family. They've got 3 kids. I've got a real young infant, I've got a middle child, and we've got an older child. So maybe an hour and some change into this, middle child comes up and says, "Hey, I'm not feeling great." And so mom says, "Well, okay, let's get you seated and maybe we'll get you some water or something." And she's in the middle of that. Young child then projectile vomits, tries to cover, right? That's the instinct. That made it spray. And so it was like a bomb went off in the room. Poor lawyer's covered, paperwork is covered, other kids are covered, baby starts crying. It was one of those. It was just, if it was a sitcom, the laugh track would have never stopped. And so, and as an agent, this is part of when we say we're life coaches, we're put out fires, we're firefighters, right? We do all those things. This is where, man, we could throw our hands up and get frustrated, or we can give a little laugh. Hey, this is no big deal. We can go get some towels. We can start cleaning up. Everyone a little embarrassed, but they're fine. We get the little girl laid down in a quiet room with a little blanket on her. We're able to finish that closing out. They buy the house, right? And at the end of the day, they're like, are we the worst clients you've ever had? Like, listen, not even close, right? Not even close. And so I'll take a little bit of a kid throwing up over some of the stuff we deal with.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure what to add to that, but I'm sure that lawyer's got a story for the rest of his life too. So
God, it was a nice suit too. I felt so bad, and he was definitely in the splash zone. So,
oh man, that's crazy. Well, gentlemen, a pleasure having you on the show. Congratulations on all the team success, and just can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Thanks for having us, man.
absolutely, thank you. It's been a blast.